Welcome to the Conscious Living Podcast, conversations to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. An uplifting and inspiring series of conversations and talks with your host, Jackie Woodside. We are educating minds, empowering lives, and enlightening souls to create a world where love prevails. In this engaging podcast, we deliver exciting, positive, transformative talks and teachings designed to elevate your life. Now, let's join our host, Jackie Woodside, for this week's session.
Hello there. Thank you so much for being with us for another episode of the Conscious Living Podcast, where we are here committed to educate, empower, and enlighten our world. Thank you so much for being with us here again for another episode. I love this topic. I love this whole notion of really diving deep and committing at least this time, if not your life, to asking the question, what does it mean to live life more consciously? Am I conscious now? Was I conscious when I just got off that last coaching call? Was I conscious in that coaching call? Was I conscious when I walked my dog this afternoon or when I had breakfast and learned a new recipe for how to nourish my body with healthy foods? Am I conscious when I'm texting with my son? And we do so many things throughout our days, and the pace of life is such that it's so easy to become a human doing. But that's not why we're here. We're here to grow and evolve in our consciousness and to be our beings, our highest self, our evolving self. So today I couldn't be more grateful to engage in this so meaningful and heartfelt dialogue with someone who I've known for a very long time, who is not only an esteemed colleague, but a dear friend of mine. The Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson is an ordained CSL, Centers for Spiritual Living minister. He's also fluent in American Sign Language, which many of you know is near and dear to my heart. We share that as well, share our love of the deaf community and our love of American Sign Language. He is an author, just finishing up his third book, which I'd love to get into a little bit today. An extraordinary spiritual teacher, guide, coach, mentor, just so many roles. I mean, just the fact that his name is Dr. Reverend tells you and all that you need to know about this gentleman. I was chiding him as we got on the call today, because for those of you who are listening just on audio, we are also on video if you want to watch us on YouTube. And I said, can you do me a favor before we meet next time? And he said, what is that? I said, could you please age a little bit? Because no matter how many years I've known this guy, he has not changed an ounce because he's full of love, full of life, and full of energy. So, Dr. Reverend Raymont Anderson, welcome to the Conscious Living Podcast. Please go ahead and say a little bit more about yourself and your journey so our listeners can get to know you.
Well, first of all, thank you so very much, my beloved, for inviting me, for the invite, for the conversation, for the opportunity, for those kind words. Yeah, we have known each other for a good bit of time.
Long time, yeah.
Yeah, it's great to be here with you. And let's see, what about me? One thing that I would like to share with folks, because people look at where I am now and they don't realize that there has been, because, we're going to talk about conscious living, and it's conscious living that gave me the opportunity to shift into the space I am now, but that there have been years of various kinds of abuse and self-hatred of all kinds, etc., and moving from into this new space of self-love, self-care, self-worth. For me, that's what a lot of it has come down to in terms of living consciously, living with, pause for a second. So you know how normally within our circles of whether it's new thought or spirituality, we refer to positivity or positive, and we phrase it as it's good. And then the negative, which we phrase as it's bad. And I got to a point where I said, I don't want to do that anymore, because for me, it's not as fully expressive as it could be. For me, positive and negative, yin and yang, a battery, you need a positive charge and a negative charge, yin and yang, positive, negative, dark, light, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, I refer to things as being life affirming or life denying. And in moving through this journey, each moment, each opportunity, I asked, is this going to be a life-affirming opportunity? Is this a life-affirming choice? Is this a life-affirming relationship? If it is not, then what is my invitation to do about it? Now, granted, there are a lot of things that it is what it is. And like I had surgery last April. I'd rather not, but my body said, no, yeah, you do. So in this, how do I navigate surgery? How do I navigate a cancer diagnosis? How do I navigate surgery? How do I navigate the aftercare in the most life-affirming way possible with intentionality and consciously? That's where I am. That's, what got me here where I am today. So I just want to, give them a little bit of background stuff.
Absolutely love that. And if I remember right, Raymont, you were not always as physically fit and healthy as you are now. Didn't you go through a period of fairly significant weight loss at an earlier part in your life?
So early part, yes, I was very healthy, very physically fit because I did martial arts since I was about 10 years old.
Okay.
But then hit a moment of Great Depression while living in Richmond, Virginia, attending Virginia Commonwealth University. And my father made his transition, and the grief wrecked me. And from that point until somewhere around 2009-ish, I went from being 165 pounds to 305 pounds.
Wow.
And it was all related to, depression. Well, it was actually closer to 250 because between 2009 and 2011 is when it jumped up to roughly 305, 308-ish. And when my doctors say, like, when you go to the doctor for your primary care, your checkup, and your doctor gets teary-eyed, when your doctor is telling you about your blood pressure and your cholesterol, and they shed a tear for you, yeah, it's time to get a little bit more conscious about, okay,
it's time to pay attention.
Right. So I said, okay, what do I need to do? So I spent time, getting in touch with the emotions that, New Thought is, be happy all the time and smile, and what's in your consciousness and how are you created? All of that. Right? Let's examine, let's extrapolate, let's dissect, let's get to the core, feel the emotions. I don't like feeling this. Yeah, but the only way you're going to navigate through the storm is by navigating through the storm. You're here. What do you need to do? So in getting in touch with that, 2011 to 2013 was me getting back to a space of, okay, 308-ish, back down to 165, cholesterol fine, blood pressure fine. Wow. The doctor was ecstatic because she didn't want to put me on medication anyway, et cetera. Yeah. So things were great. Then, surgery last year. Yeah. So between surgery and now, there has been some weight gain, but I know what I need to do, and it's no longer connected to sadness and grief, etc.
Sure. Well,
and comfort eating the way it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you absolutely look amazing. And I have so much respect for people who can do that, who can take their bodies from, that level of dysfunction and dis-ease and unhealthiness and just really turn it around. And, I remember seeing the pictures online, and it was stunning to see what you did. So, so let's dive in. Already we're talking about living consciously. You had to get conscious of your grief. You had to get conscious of depression in order to, let's be real. In order to not kill yourself really early in life.
Right.
You had to start getting conscious. So what does it mean to you as an ordained minister of Centers for Spiritual Living, as a spiritual teacher, and also as a Black man living in a pretty racist society? I don't know. Let's look at it from every way possible. What does it mean to you to live life more consciously?
So the short answer would be living consciously it's sort of like what you mentioned in your opening regarding the new recipe. The only reason you can have a new recipe or the meal is you know what you want the end result to be.
Okay.
I want this delicious breakfast meal or dinner. I want to enjoy this.
Yeah.
In order to get to that, there are things that have to come into place before that. Okay, so let's go back to there's a recipe. You have to read the recipe. Okay, yes, we have that. Yes, we have that. Okay, I'll send him to the store for that. We got, ooh, I don't even know what that is. Then it's Siri, what is, oh, okay, our neighbor has that in her garden. Okay, then you get all of the ingredients, then you follow it, you get to the end. Conscious living for me is, what is it that I want to experience in my day? What do I want to feel throughout the day? If I say I want to feel passion, I want to feel joy. Okay, cool, great. Love the words, but what does that look like? When you put joy on, what does it look like? For me, it looks like laughter. And I mean belly aching, tears, laughter. For me, that's joy. Okay, then what brings that to you? Being around the grandkids, dogs and animals. Okay, are they here right now? No. Well, if they're not here right now, then what are you invited to do? I'm invited to visit. I'm invited to, I have to do something, but I have to know what is it that I want to be experientially. I want to be happy, not just feel it. That's great, but I want to be the core of happiness, of joy, of bliss, of passion. I want that to be my default setting. So I have to have a clear idea of what that looks like, what it feels like, what it smells like, and then reverse engineer it and then build it. Take the steps. What are the thoughts that are going to get me there? What are the emotions and feelings that will get me there? What are the actions that will get me there? What relationships will get me there? If I don't know what the end result is, you know, years ago, I was coaching someone and they said that they wanted more money. And I said, oh, that's all? They're like, yes, I so want more money. And I pulled a quarter out of my pocket and gave it to them. And I said, that was easy. You have more money. And they said, oh, no, Ray, like a lot more money. And I said, oh, so I'll write you a check for $1,000 because that's a lot more than a quarter and mission accomplished. And they said, no, I mean a lot. And I said, well, I don't know how many zeros a lot means.
Right.
So can you tell me what is the number that once you have this number? And they paused and thought about it and didn't have an answer. We don't know what happiness is. We know what we've been taught it is. We know what we've been indoctrinated to believe happiness is, or joy, or right relationship, or whatever. We know what we've been taught or told. And as Don Miguel Ruiz would say, we've been domesticated for these things. Religion and stuff has told us that it's these things. Okay, so then we're trying to live up to an ideal that in most cases isn't real, because the general collective consciousness about love isn't really love.
Yeah.
It's a conditional thing that says, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, but it has to be based on A, B, and it's some algebraic equation. That's not really love.
It's need fulfillment.
Exactly. So for me, it's let's step back and really dissect, get away from the jargon of, move away from what mom told and dad told and third grade teacher told and the Pope told and whoever told you that this is love, this is joy, this is fulfilled living. And let me ask, what does it mean for you to wake up in the morning, stretch and yawn, look around and say, oh my, I get to do this again? Oh, yes. Like, what is it going to be that gets you to that space? And when you lay your head down to go to sleep, it's, I feel satisfied. I feel content. I am going to sleep knowing that I am worthy. I am valued. I am loved. I am appreciated. And if in the moment of sleepfulness, I move into life after life, which we call death, but I move into life after life, I feel that my life on this side was well lived and I'm ready for the next adventure.
Right, right.
How do we do that?
So what you're describing, Raymond, is so kind of antithetical to how most people experience life.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's that little point. That's not how most people are wading through life. So let's go there a little bit. What gets in the way of people having the capacity to lean into living life consciously, designing their life consciously, being more conscious to the magic and miracle and mystery of life itself?
So my experience, both individually for me and other people that I've spoken to and, counseled or coached, etc., the main things that get in the way would be those indoctrinated ideas of what this means. You can't be happy until you retire, or you can't really live your life until you retire from a job that you work 90 hours a day, 40 days a week for 3,000 years. You can't really be happy until you're married and have kids and a dog and a cat and a fence. And, oh, but you have to wait until the kids are grown and move. And then it's always about this idea of, and even when we get to, for real, systemic issues, toxic patriarchy, gender bias, etc., homomisia, or what many people call homophobia, and transmisia, and racism, and all of these things. These are real world systemic things that show up. Even regarding those, if I have the idea that says, one, I deserve this, because they're using the Bible to say I deserve this, and I've embodied it, then I'm going to live a certain way based upon that. Or, racism has been since my ancestors were kidnapped and brought over here and made into slaves, and there's nothing that I can do about it. Then I'm relegating myself to be a victim of, versus doing what did Harriet Tubman do? Harriet Tubman said, okay, so you said there's what? Freedom where? Okay. And Harriet Tubman did what she needed to do to get freedom. Did it change racism? No. Did it end slavery? No. But she did what she needed to do for herself and for those that she assisted in gaining freedom. Frederick Douglass said, I prayed for freedom for 25 years, but I did not get it until I prayed with my feet. Until he realized it's not just an internal thing. I have to make freedom an external thing. Until that shift in consciousness happens, then. So my experience has been, what blocks many of us is we have internalized oppression, suppression. We've internalized all of this stuff. We experience trauma. And because of the way culture and society dictate what that means, once you've been traumatized, once you've been, domestic violence, once you've been whatever it is, you are now a victim. And there's a whole consciousness around that. Now, yes, you were abused. Yes, I was abused. But if I internalize victim mentality based upon what they say it is, then I have to accept all of the parameters that come with their definition of it, versus saying, yes, I have been shot at more times than I care to name. I have experienced gun violence. Yes, I have been molested and raped. Yes, these things have happened. I have been beaten. Yes, yes, I was chased down the street one time by a group of white guys with a noose running after me. Yes, these things have happened. And yet, I do not let those things determine the direction, the power, or the presence of my life. But I also don't deny that I experience these things. And the general collective consciousness is you have to be a victim. And it means this, and you can't speak up, and you can't gain power of your life, and you can't do this, and women can't do that, which is why we're in the condition we are now in the United States of America regarding women's body autonomy, because there is a whole segment of collective consciousness that wants to go back to the Salem witch trial.
1800s. I mean,
Right.
this happened in Arizona. Literally the 1800s. Yeah, yeah.
So yes, this is occurring or has occurred. And still, what is my invitation? To live my best life while also dismantling this consciousness, the system of it, etc. Both and.
So I love this. There's so many avenues I could pick up on here. So you're saying that there's a distinction between the individual consciousness, the wave in the ocean, versus the collective consciousness, and that that we individually have a choice to not be defined by collective consciousness, but the only way to separate ourselves from that is through awakening, through being conscious of our own narrative, of our own choices, of our own identity, of our own I am statement.
Correct.
So put this, you talked about how our culture is kind of conditioning us, if you will, to be the victim, that there's so much victim language out there. Let's talk about all of this, Raymont, in terms of evolution of consciousness, kind of a Gene Houston type topic, the evolutionary perspective, because I do, as unbelievably backwards as things look right now, I do believe that there is a higher purpose at play, that there's an evolutionary impulse that is wanting to express itself. And we're in part of that evolutionary spiral. So what are your thoughts on where we are in terms of conscious living, which on the surface right now very much looks like a regression, a devolution, de-evolution back to the 1800s, back to racist society, back to a lot of victimization consciousness. Where are we in terms of conscious evolution?
Great question. So where do I want to go? So it's easy, and I often, so when people come to me for prayer or counseling regarding specifically what we were just talking about, and they're feeling so downtrodden and hopeless regarding, like literally, we just said the 1800s, literally they just regressed the legislation to that. So, okay, your homework, I want you to research how many people, how many organizations in that state particularly are doing the work of equity, justice, etc. And when you look at the numbers, there are far more people doing the work of unity and oneness and community. When Dr. King referenced having a prophetic vision in order to create the beloved community, there are far more people doing that work than there are in that minority of, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and rewind the clock back to yesterday, and we're going to, no. That is a small number. Yes, it is a small number of people who do hold some power. Yes, in terms of political authority. Yes, but when you look at these numbers, and the numbers of these people and their age and when terms are going to term out, etc., these potential politicians who are younger right now, who are involved in the political sphere right now in their 20s, will become the politicians of that evolving consciousness.
Yeah.
Because for them, it's about effective care of the planet. This is about how many chemicals can we dump in the oceans and the rivers? And there are far more people who are unified to a goal of oneness and unity than the counter. What the news and the media focuses on is that, because it's the whole idea of you're driving down the neighborhood, or I'm driving down the neighborhood, and there's a single house on fire. When you look at the house that's on, why would I look at the ones that aren't on fire? There are far more houses that aren't on fire where everything is fine, but the one that is on fire is the one that draws the attention.
Yeah.
That's what's going on with this as well, to a large degree. How do we realize that the numbers, while also putting the fire out?
Yeah. and get out the vote. And that's
Oh, yes, without it. Yes, without a doubt, without a doubt. And I know that there are numbers of people who, because the system of an electoral college, and yeah, I got you, I got you. But for right now, it's like when I had my surgery last April, and the doctor was explaining that they're going to use it's a robotic surgery and whatnot. And I said, say what now? He said, yes, so this is what we're going to do, and this is what I do. And he said, had you got this diagnosis even 2 years ago, where medicine is now, and yet, had I got it 2 years ago, would I have said, oh, well, wait a minute, I have to wait until the robot is created?
right.
Or would I have said, this is where medicine is? Let me engage the process for where it is while still evolving medicine to be even better. This is
Great.
where voting is.
Great analogy.
Yes, engage the process and make it even better so that we get to a time where your son's grandchildren reach back and say, wait a minute, so you're telling me that in 2004, there was actually a thing called war?
Right.
That by the time it reaches them, it's completely extinct. We do that by engaging the system, engage the democratic system, engage mental health, engage all of the systems, corporations, etc., consciously with the intention of waking up, enlightening, and changing it so that more people are helped rather than harmed.
Oh, right. I love it. The other thing you said about the waking up, being conscious, you talked very eloquently about not just waking up on the inside and your thinking and your emotions, but in what you're doing. So let's go there a little bit.
Has to be.
You're speaking my love language. You're speaking my love language. Don't sit around and think good thoughts, get up and move your feet.
Which we hear a lot of in New Thought is, what's in your consciousness? You're not supposed to, quote unquote, protest, or you're not supposed to do, just meditate, just pray. Okay, I hear what you're saying. And yet, if you and I were to sit down for a meal and you look over at me and I'm in prayer, and the server comes over and asks you, well, what do you want? And you told them, and I'm still in prayer. So you say, well, check back. I just check back. So they've gone, put your order in, and I'm here. And then I open my eyes and you look at me and say, Ray, what are you doing? And I say, I'm praying for my meal.
Right.
Well, there's something that has to be done. You can pray and pray and pray and pray, and it's not going to start the car until you turn the ignition or now push the button.
Right.
You can pray and pray and pray and pray all you want, but the television isn't going to come on till you hit the remote control. And we know these things on that level. Well, it works the same way on all levels. When Carl Sagan said, you are the way that the universe knows itself, that is a way of saying that everything that is operates based upon the same, whether they're spiritual laws, whether they're the physical laws of science and mathematics. It works the same wherever you are. So if it works the same for me getting a meal, prayer, 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 no food. Prayer, prayer, no food. Prayer, 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 no food. What's wrong? Well, the server came over to ask and you didn't say anything.
Right.
There's a process. So whatever it is I want to experience, I have to be clear, referencing the mental equivalence. What are my thoughts, my beliefs, my paradigms regarding that? What way am I communicating regarding that? What are my emotions and feelings regarding that? What are my actions regarding that? All four of those have to be in alignment.
Beautiful.
Because if one of them is off, then yeah, there may be results regarding something, but it's not quite what it could be.
Exactly.
So how do I engage all of these?
So good.
For that end result, whatever that is in terms of my individual life or collectively. What is that? What does that look like? What am I called to do? The parable of the Good Samaritan, it's about taking action. How do we serve one another? Community is there's an author, S. Kelly Harrell says, we do not heal in isolation. We heal in community.
Mm.
We don't, and I add, we don't love in isolation.
Mm-hmm.
We love in relationship. We love in community.
So great. Beautiful. It's what you just said about those four elements of creation and manifestation. I wonder if that sounds similar to the book that you're working on. Can you tell us a little bit about the book that you're working on, and particularly how you're updating some kind of very old spiritual principles to today's challenges? And I'd love to go into that a little bit.
Oh, so you want me to get a little controversial now?
Well,
Okay.
let's just go there. Let's just go
Right,
there.
right. I got you. So the working concept of the book is this idea of EKG. And normally when we think of EKG, we think of, the heart rhythm. And for me, I said, well, EKG, my equivalent of knowing I am God.
Nice.
Because whatever the spiritual tradition is, there are many examples of whatever that thing is, whatever you call it, it's all that there is. Meister Eckhart said, between me and God, there is no between.
Nice.
He said, what now? Right? Between me and God, there is no between. Voltaire, if I'm not mistaken, said, God is a circle, circumference nowhere, center everywhere. So when we say in New Thought, there's not a spot where God is not. But we don't practice it that way. So for me, going through Emmett Fox's The Mental Equivalent, my very first thought was we don't have one mental equivalent. We have mental equivalents. Mm-hmm. Because I can have a mental equivalent regarding romance, love, and relationship. And I can have a different mental equivalent regarding parenting or being parented or finance. They're not the same because I can have different thoughts and beliefs about different things. So my first idea was, well, we have various mental equivalents regarding various ways that we show up. Okay, so let's go even deeper. When he says this, wow, that's racist. So what is a more unified, harmonious way of expressing this where it doesn't subjugate or further oppress the marginalized communities? Now, he didn't reference anything about the LGBTQ community, but he did specifically reference someone from the Black community. So what is a more expanded, or as we say in CSL, Centers for Spiritual Living, referencing Ernest Holmes, being open at the top, which I always add, also be open at the bottom. The darkness is not the enemy. The tree roots are in the darkness, branches pull in the light. It's all of it. So how do I write this and speak to people no matter where they are regarding their thoughts and beliefs, the ways in which they communicate, etc. So I explored what are some things that I used to do, referencing what people refer to as toxic positivity. Where was I blaming myself because, well, the law of attraction said, well, I haven't attracted what I wanted as of yet. Okay, so what am I doing wrong? Well, you do realize that you're in a collective consciousness as well.
Right.
And if the two of us are swimming in the same swimming pool and I pour food coloring in the pool, it's only a matter of time before it's going to touch you. No amount of pushing the water, it's still going to reach you. So if I am already in the pool of consciousness of systemic issues regarding and gender bias and all of these things, inequitable distribution of wealth and all of these things, then how do I both swim and navigate what it means to get from one end of the pool to the other, but also how do I start to displace this water and replace it with fresh, clean water? How do I allow my individual consciousness to also be sending out ripples that are affecting others? So one thing that I do is whenever I'm speaking, at a Unity or CSL or wherever, I drop little things in there, in the conversation, in the message, etc., that starts to tweak people's ideas. For example, oftentimes people will say things like, well, you know how women are. Pause. Just that statement right there, you have taken every woman and put them into these parentheses. You know how women are. You didn't say, you know how some women are, or you know how, you said women. Do you realize that what is going on in your belief system to lump everyone into one category when you know logically, if we really break it down into reason, you know that your statement does not apply to every single woman in there. So why communicate that way? That's not conscious communication. That's not intentional use of your language unless you are consciously and intentionally attempting to stereotype, attempting to pigeonhole. Is that your intention? Well, no, Reverend Ray. What I mean is, say what you mean then. Be mindful of the words you use have power. When you insult someone, some people have taken their lives as a result of that. When you compliment some people, their entire life path changed. Words have power. Mm-hmm. So be more intentional. When we talk about the cosmic 2x4, well, we're still anthropomorphizing God then. And in New Thought, we don't believe in an anthropomorphic God. So when you say, well, every time, Jackie, every time I do this, the universe sends me a new lesson to learn. You're anthropomorphizing the universe. Now, I know linguistic convenience, and sometimes we shorthand in order to convey a concept. I don't have a problem with that. But on a deeper level, what is it that I am really saying at the core of the language? That I'm doing something wrong, the universe deems it wrong, so the universe is sending me lessons and tests to redirect. Right. That's the same thing that fundamental Christianity refers to, just with different words.
Different words, right.
So the book is challenging the reader to examine, so I have a belief about money, whatever that is. Do I say things like, well, money doesn't grow on trees? Where did I get that phrase? Someone gave it to me. Do I believe it? Well, I know money doesn't grow on trees. Like, that's common sense. Then why are you saying this interesting colloquial phrase? What are you really communicating? Say that. And when I tell people, most of the times they say, well, what I would really say is, I'm not giving you money, or I don't have the money. Say that. And then have a different conversation about it rather than. So yeah, I'm poking the bear in many ways regarding.
Basically, what you're saying is be conscious of what's influencing you. Be conscious of how you're using your language. I love that. Be conscious of the cultural influences that make us go unconscious, including the New Thought movement and how, maybe in many ways, the New Thought movement is a dressed up version of paternalistic Christianity.
Oh, without it. I mean, so I will reference specifically Ernest Holmes and Science of Mind textbook and whatnot. It's God is always he, him, his.
Yeah.
It's very, and I tell people whenever I'm teaching a class or whatever, one, think about the time that he wrote this, the era.
Yes.
But our invitation is to evolve the language.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and evolve the concepts. God is not the white man in the cloud with a beard. That's
right.
No, the white man with a beard is Santa Claus. That's our cultural icon.
And you better watch out because he's watching you.
Right? It's got a lot of the same kind of mythical overhang of it is, yeah. All right, Ray, I could talk to you all day. We've been buddies for a long time. We should start wrapping this up. If people want to hear more about you, take a class with you, get coached up by you, where's the best place for people to track you down?
Very easy, RaymontAnderson.com.
Okay.
And email and all the stuff is there. That's the easiest. RaymontAnderson.com.
All right, awesome. Again, that's Raymont, Raymont, Anderson.com. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. You just, we gotta hang. I love spending time with you. Your wisdom, your depth, your brilliance, your humor. It's just always great to be with you. So thank you for being a guest on my podcast. I appreciate you.
Thank you.